So while I was busy prepping tweets for last week's episode of Tweet Street with the unpopular relationship opinions, there was one that I stumbled onto which I felt like I just couldn't discuss it on that particular episode. Not because it was too bad or too good or not self-explanatory or anything. It just felt like it needed its own entire breakdown of some sort. And it's not like it's some complicated concept. It's literally just the concept of settling down and settling for less. But the reason why I felt like it needed an entire episode was because I felt that there was quite a bit that needed to be unpacked from there. And a lot of that is mostly because I'm supposed to do an episode on expectations and entitlement. And without pointing this out, I don't think that the episode on expectations and entitlement would hit quite as well, or at least it would carry into that quite as well if I didn't sort of address this first. And I will be getting into that, but first, why the hell are my manners? I probably should have started by introducing this episode because this episode and the next 5 will be particularly different, shorter, no instrumentals, just me, kind of voicing my thoughts and shit. And in very classic fashion, let me just start by saying, welcome to Breaktime on West Side, your number one Breaktime podcast, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. The man on the mic still likes his yogurt the same exact way he likes his women. Actually, wait, no, still likes his women the same way he likes his yogurt. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. The show is Raw Zone, a much shortened version of the podcast, which allows me to be on break, but I still do get to voice a couple of my thoughts on some key issues that I feel should be discussed. Now, we have a tweet, and I figured we probably should discuss it a little bit more, so I'm going to read it for you, and it says, and I quote, "Most people end up with people they settled for because they didn't do the work to be with the kind of person they actually want to be with. And tolerating someone is not love to me, so a lot of y'all in loveless relationships, sorry, somebody had to say it." End quote. Now, the interesting thing that hit me the moment I finished reading this tweet the very first time was the fact that it was actually a woman that wrote it. And I didn't know that it was a babe. It's not like the profile picture is what drew me to the fact that it was a babe. The moment I just read it, it just clicked in my mind that it was a woman. And I'll be very happy to tell you exactly why, even though you didn't really ask for it. But it's actually something that a lot of guys would probably notice, and I don't think a lot of babes probably would. And it's actually a very, very simple concept. And to be quite honest, not too long after I read this while I was still prepping, I actually decided to go and check. And lo and behold, it was actually a babe who wrote this. But the interesting part about it is the fact that I just managed to point it out even before, yet whatever it is that's been said is something that could have been said by either gender. So what exactly was it? Well, to be quite honest, and the guys will probably have it click in their minds at this point if it didn't already, it's the fact that women, or at least a lot of women today, look at the concept of settling down and equate it to settling for less. And I know, no one said settling down, no one said settling for less, but when you actually read this tweet, much as woman just said settle, it actually kind of carried both those connotations in one way or another interchangeably. Because if you use settle in the first bit where she was saying a lot of people settle with a person, yet if they worked on themselves, they'd have gotten someone better, and then goes on to complain about loveless relationships, it starts with settle down and it becomes settle for less, and it almost seems like the same thing. Yet it's actually not, because the idea of settling for less is actually a very recent thing. It's something that people, or should I say, it's something that women have spoken about over the past few years. I don't think it's exceeded 5. But when you kind of think of the connotation that it carries, it's actually quite negative. As opposed to us guys, whenever we think of the concept of settling down, it's usually nothing negative to say the least. Also, as men, we don't really understand the concept of settling for less as opposed to settling down, because a lot of us just don't understand settling for less, because it's either you're with a babe that you like or that you're willing to tolerate and you wouldn't mind having some sort of a future with, which is technically a good babe of sorts, or you're with a babe that you love, or a babe that you really want to be with, that you've had a good future with, or you're with a babe and it's not because you entirely love her or you want to spend the rest of your life with her or anything, but either she trapped you or she got pregnant because the pullout game was a bit weak, or you guys just have some sort of a circumstantial situation that forces you to be together. And I'm going to leave arranged marriages out of this just for the fact that I don't think there's that many people that do arranged marriages nowadays, unless you're talking about hooking up between friends. But now, that aside, when you look at where the whole idea of settling for less came from, you kind of have to backdate it a little bit, or at least where the popularity of the term kind of came from. You kind of have to think back to when, this current third wave radical feminism was really at its peak. They were busy talking about how they should screw as many guys as they want and not have anything to worry about, and that they've been oppressed for all of these years, and men are the problem, and men are trash, and the corporations are bullshit, and they should hire female leadership, and we need more women-led roles, blah blah blah. The whole girl power movement was in full swing. At about the same time, while they were doing that, there was this movement that sort of cropped up that emphasized on the liking of women with bigger bodies. I'm talking about what some people might refer to as the plus size movement, as the body positivity era, or what I probably like to refer to as fat lives matter. Because that was when babes who were talking about, you need to be loved regardless of your size, pretty much appreciated the fact that they were fat, but skinny babes got no love at all for that because, well, clearly the society has always been on their side because they were skinny. But, if they were insecure about their body, as long as you don't feel like you need to lose weight, you're particularly okay. And during that time, when they were busy deciding that, men should also accept them because of their size and everything and how they're all perfect 10s and shit, at about that same time, that was when the whole liking of, you shouldn't take less from men, guys are giving bare minimum, blah, blah, blah. And now the concept of settling for less now started to take hold because now more women were talking about how they were being mistreated in relationships and shit. And the concept of the relationship requiring a certain amount of labor, which wouldn't make you happy, was something that they sort of dissociated from. And if you listen to a lot of babes who were pretty much in their teens or in their 20s or even their 30s within the 2010s, you'll hear them use that term quite a bit. Now, when you think about it, the concept of settling down is actually something that isn't that bad. It's actually not a bad thing. For guys, whenever we look at the concept of settling down, it's, yes, you might be in the streets, yes, you might be dating this shorty and you can go and look for other babes here and there, but whatever it is that you have is pretty good as is, and instead of chasing around the next finest babe or this other person that you thought you could probably have a future with, you decide, let me dial it down, relax, and actually try and build something with this babe. Is she perfect? No. Is she the most amazing human being on planet Earth? Probably not, but she's a good person, she takes care of me, and generally a good human being to be with. So I'm just going to be with this person and possibly start some sort of a family with her. Like, that's the simple concept for us guys of what settling down is. Now, when you listen to the concept of settling down for a babe, it actually sounds way more negative than that, where it's like, oh, well, there was this guy that really wanted me. I'd have been with this other guy, but I chose to be with this guy. Now I'm with this guy. He's a bit annoying and he's done this and he's done that. But, I guess I can start something with him. He's not that bad. Like, you listen to babes who talk about how they quote unquote settle down with a guy, especially these younger babes, and it usually just sounds so bad. Like, you'll hear them saying, he's okay, he's not that bad, he's just fine. He's not bad, he's not great. And you listen to that and you can clearly see whenever guys look at the concept of settling down and babes look at the concept of settling down, it's literally like a case of one side looks at it as a glass half full and the other one is looking at it as a glass half empty. Now, of course, there are some guys that probably wish that they were with someone else, probably a year or two after marrying their partner, and that's a different case. But for the most part, a lot of guys, whenever they choose to settle down, they kind of look at it from a glass half full perspective, which is kind of sad for the babes because when you now start looking at the concept of settling down with a guy as settling for less, it kind of does put you in a position where you actually feel or think that you should have gotten more, could have gotten more than whatever it is that you got. And yes, when you go back to the tweet and how it talks about how, if you worked on yourself, then you probably could have gotten someone better. If you think about it, for a babe, or at least from a babe's perspective, there's only so much that you can do, because it's not like making more money will mean that you'll get yourself a better dude. It might get you into some nice circles, but it doesn't mean that you'll necessarily get a better dude. If, say, your hygiene was shit or your cooking was shit and you work and improve that, those can definitely help, in securing a guy. But getting them, I wouldn't entirely say so. But I guess probably the biggest one that would probably work in this scenario is maybe if you were fat and then you worked out, or you were skinny and you worked out and you managed to grow a body with nice proportions and shit. And I guess that could probably be the only thing that I'd say a babe was supposed to work on, at least externally. When you look at the internals, definitely, there's a lot that babes can do to work on themselves. The unfortunate bit is, there's a lot of women right now who think they're perfect, or like to lie to themselves that they're perfect and they didn't do anything wrong, and everything is perfectly the other person's fault. Of which, if that's the case, maybe you probably should work on yourselves. Maybe you've had a string of toxic exes and you had a chance with a good guy and you blew it, and then you're back with a toxic dude that you're now currently with. Then maybe you can say that at that point in time, you probably should have worked on yourself, psychologically speaking. But all in all, the concept of settling down should never be looked at as settling for less. For a lot of us guys, we look at the idea of settling down as us guys just getting ourselves off the market before we have to get ourselves off the market. For babes, if you continue to look at it as settling for less, which is pretty much you ending up with someone that gives you very shit treatment and you not moving on because you thought that was the best or that was okay for you, then at the end of the day, you probably won't be looking at your relationship as something good, and the idea of you chasing happiness with the person that you're currently with will continue to elude you. Although then again, I might be wrong about this shit, so I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open on IG, on Facebook, it is at Breaktime, on my side, on Twitter, it is at Bagaka the D. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.